Story 1, this is Fire Team Delta. Dad's coming home. Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Cloy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast. Today on the show, we have Steven Kuhn. Steven is a decorated United States Army combat veteran, speaker, author, consultant, who helps individuals dramatically improve the quality of their life, their consistent, conscious, and application of honesty, integrity, and transparency. Steven lives in Hungary, his home choice after trying out 9 countries before over the last 30 years, and consults individuals and companies and organizations. Steven, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Ben. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great honor to get to have you on my show. As I've watched you for over the last year, all on your live videos.
Well, I have to say, you're just building up your personality online as well. I see that. But we met in Orlando. We hit it off. So I appreciate that, the invitation. Of course, more than happy.
Can you describe a little bit what your family looks like right now, and any gaps in that intro?
Sure. No, there's no gaps. I mean, we all live a life, so it's hard to describe the highs and the lows in a 2-second sort of bio. So my life, I'm 51 years old. I have a 30-year-old wife from Hungary, which is why I live here now. And I have 2 children, Maximilian, Eugene Kuhn, he's 4 years old, and Chenge, Victoria Kuhn, who is a 3-year-old daughter. Now, just to look at family real quick, is through my years of travel and service, and when I was a kid, we moved, I don't know how many times, but we had, 3 stepfathers, I think, or something, or 4. And when I joined the military, I moved every 3 years as well. Then I got out of the military, I moved again all the time. So I've lived in 9 countries, like you said. And one thing I noticed through all those travels is that the people with the most solid personality and that are empathetic to others all have one thing in common that I've noticed. And this is all the way through the royals that I hung out with. This is all the way through with the movie stars and politicians and whoever it was that I worked with and for, is the one thing that they had in common from a solid individual was they had an intact family. So I said to myself, if I'm ever going to have a family, that's priority number 1. Now, I'm lucky that I had all my goofy stuff out of the way and when I met my wife, because, I'm 51, so I can sort of make a priority. Back when I was 30, probably wouldn't have been able to do it, And so now I decided to live here in a little village outside of Budapest because the grandmother lives here, the great-grandmother lives here, the grandfather, the cousins, the aunts, uncles, they all live here. And I want my children to grow up around family because I want them to be that stable personality, to be able to give more to the world than they take.
I love that. And I love the end there where you talked about having that ecosystem of family to really have that full branch of the family tree that a lot of military families, my wife grew up in the Air Force for 20 years, and they moved around 4 different places and very rarely met their family. And the only family they really had was her brother and mom and dad. And so it's great that you recognize that importance of having that outside branches to make sure they stay anchored.
Well, it's the empathy part of it too, because when they can't get along with the parents, like the kids have trouble with the parents. What did I do when I was a kid? I went to my grandparents as long as they were alive, and they're there to sort of console you and help you and stuff. And then my parents were separated, so I went to my dad, then I went to my mom, then my grandmothers, and they were always fighting all of them. So you could never go to all of them at the same time. Like there was never any family parties, so it was a big mess. And for the most part, until the grandparents died, it was okay. And it was 1986, so that was when I left. I just saw that even my wife, she's so solid because of that, right? She's a solid personality, which I don't have that solidity. I'm building it with my family now, and I'm doing it consciously. I have to, because I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. And even just simply being aware of it. It's not always something that comes easy every day, but simply just being aware of it. I grew up on a farm, and my grandma grew up at the end of the driveway. And so she was the first best friend that I ever had in my life. She was there when I got off the bus. She had cookies. She had pie from that day. She was the rock in my life for the first 15 years of my life. And Those memories will always be there for me. And I'm very conscious to make sure that my daughter has those same memories or similar as best as possible. Because those other branches can mean so much impact in your life.
Yeah, and you're right when you talk about the conscious effort, and it's not easy, but it gets easy when you turn it into a habit, put a process in front of it. So if you have a process to actually, you have a mission for your children, and that is not for them to be someone or be somebody, but actually to live the life and allow them to be children as long as they can. That's my mission. I want them to be children as long as they can. I want them to smile and laugh every single day. Like my mission is when I come down the stairs alone in the morning for my morning routine, and they come down after, they always scream, "Daddy!" It's like a carnival every morning because we have that connection. We have that connection every morning. We hug and we kiss and we hold each other and we cuddle, and every morning that's like our ritual, even before they go to the preschool and everything. So, that's conscious, obviously. That's the conscious part of it for me. And of course, out through the day, instead of yelling at them because they're doing something bad, you try to explain it to them and ask them the things. And because I work at home now, it's sometimes stressful because they're always jumping in front of the camera. I'm sure you've seen it
many times.
Yeah, and it's okay for me. I actually enjoy it. I want them to be part of my life that way. I don't want to be in the office with the door closed like you see in the movies, right? Dad's in his office, don't bother him. I leave the door open. They can come in anytime.
And the Steven Kuhn that I know wants that honesty part to show that he is a dad, and for him to hide the most important part of his life wouldn't be true to himself either.
Exactly. You got it. You nailed it right there.
When I say the words "come home," Steven, what does it mean to you?
To me personally, it means coming back to myself and not losing sight of who I actually am and what my mission in life, what my core responsibilities are, and why I do what I do.
What does it mean when you come home to your kids?
Well, it's funny you say that because up until October last year, I traveled 4 days a week, right, for 20 years. And okay, I've only been married for, with this wife now for 8 years, with my wife now for 8 years. So she didn't know the other years, but that's all she knew, and it's all my children knew. So last year, October, I said, I'm done, because I came home one time and the kids were speaking sort of like a grown-up almost. And I was like, when did you start speaking? And I said, wow, I'm done. So I decided to stay home and start an online business. I had no idea what I was going to do. I literally stayed home. That happened. And I didn't go back and say, hey, I'm leaving, because I was self-employed anyway. So I told the clients, either we do online or we're done. And 99% of them said, we're done. So because they didn't want to work online, because most of my clients were in Europe, and they still want to see you face to face, even though you just sit there and you eat breakfast with them, and then you eat lunch with them, you eat dinner with them, you go out to golfing, all kinds of
shared espresso.
It's just, it was horrible, man. Well, it's because you spend 90% of your time hobnobbing, and not even working, so you're not effective anyway. Plus all the costs and everything stuff. So plus
that's a big debt that you're buying from your kids too. That
on top of all that, and
it comes back.
And so when you say coming home, I came home last year, October. Like, I literally said, I am home. And man, that was hard. That was really hard. It was super hard for my wife, because she wasn't used to having me there every day. And there I was. The kids were, ecstatic, literally like just on me all the time because they loved it. And then they were asked, like, when are you going to leave again? It's like, so they're so used to it that was the norm. And it hurt. It was like, wow, I can't believe that that's what they think is normal.
It sounds very similar to other guests that I've talked to about the military transition coming back from a deployment. Is there any advice you'd give any other military veteran dads that maybe have that issue with their wife, that got used to them being gone, they're trying to come home?
Yeah, understand her. Don't expect anything from them. I mean, the whole thing about honesty, integrity, and transparency, what you mentioned in the beginning and HIT, is living a life of authenticity. That means being who you are. You are, as a man, as a woman, responsible for your own happiness. Nobody else is responsible for your happiness. It's great to have a wife or a husband to support you, but it's not their responsibility in the end to make you happy. And this is where a lot of guys go wrong. They come home from the military, and they, look, I came home from war, and I landed in Germany. I had no one. I mean, no one was there to welcome me except for Jim and Jack. Jim Beam and Jack Daniels. And I hung out with them for like 2 weeks. And it was the saddest freaking time of my life. You come home from a war, nobody's there. And that was probably the beginning where I realized, I got to be happy with myself no matter what happens. This expecting someone to welcome me home and call me a hero or whatever it was, or at least be recognized as a human being, comes from external expectations that are put on me. And that's where HIT comes in. You have no external expectations. You work and you operate from a core principle of honesty, integrity, transparency. And because of that, you have no expectations. And when you give to your queen, to your wife, when you do things for your queen, for your wife, you have no expectation of return because you know that the reciprocal, let's say the source, the universe, God, Allah, whoever it is that you believe in, has a real simple rule, and that is you give what you have and you receive what you don't have. So when you give without want, you receive everything you need back. So when I came home, I said, okay, take the time you need. What do you need? What kind of space? And she said, I need space, man. And as a guy who comes home, you're like, what do you mean you need space? I was gone 4 days a week, and now I'm here, and you need space from me? I mean, how you feel like, how dare you? What am I not good enough? And then this kind of thing. So
start judging yourself, start shooting yourself.
Exactly. And that's what you cannot do, because it's not about you. It's about them. And the thing is this, is when they have their own time, they actually develop their own character and do the things that they love to do without you. And that is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we schedule times. We schedule everything. I mean date night, and I mean kids. Okay, Tuesdays you take Max and I take Chenga. Wednesdays you take Chenga and I take Max. And then Thursdays we take them both together, and we do things, and we do that, and we have date night, and we do this, and then in the mornings until 2, I go to my office and close the door and don't bother her. She's in the house by herself, and that kind of stuff. And this is all important for us to have a fruitful relationship. And I'll tell you what, we've been together 9 years now. I think it's 9 years, almost 10 years, and it's like we're in love like it's the first day. It's incredible. And the kids, they see it and they feel it and they love it. Like when we hug and kiss, they all come and hug and kiss.
Mm-hmm. It's a family event.
Yes, indeed. It's amazing. It's a long time coming, I tell you.
I can imagine it's a long time. I'm a big believer that kids spell love Time. What are some simple things that you do to just ground yourself in your kids' love and make sure that they realize that their daddy loves them?
I take time for them whenever they come. Like if I'm on a podcast call, or like if they came in right now, I'd be like, 1 second, and I talk to them. Like they'll never wait for me, because I know that's the only time they're going to come to me with that question. Like this time will be over quickly. These days will be over where they're going to be like, Dad, do you have the car keys? And
these are the days everybody wants back.
Right, exactly. And I know that. And that you're preaching that is awesome, because I hope people understand how important that is. I think back to my life where I didn't have dad, and my dad I saw on Sundays. I was pre-programmed, and he was preoccupied with his new girlfriend and that kind of stuff. So, and you're sent outside to play for 8 hours, and it's like, why am I here to visit my dad if I got to play outside for 8 hours? And then, you do stupid things like you take his, you want to help him out and get the snow off of his 57 Chevy, and you take an ice scraper and scrape it off, and then you end up scraping the whole car and you get in trouble. Stuff like that, right? Yeah. So, that's what memories are made of, at least my memories. So I want to ensure that my kids grow up not spoiled. Believe me, they're not spoiled. They get 3 gifts each for Christmas, for instance. Like we don't do that. We don't play that game, and value is there. My wife is amazing at making sure that they take time with each other, that we have time with each other, that she's with them, and that we have board games and puzzles, and like real time together. We spend a lot of time. I spend more time with them than anybody else. Like, and that's rare as a father. Most people are out of the house working, doing this, sleeping, and that. I'm with my kids and my wife all the day.
When I was trying to create my business over the last 2 years, and even now with this podcast and trying to get it ready to launch, I've always been very conscientious that whatever I build is not going to come at the cost of my family or my kids, because I'm not going to build something that makes me a stranger from the people I'm trying to build it for.
Exactly.
And the hustle part of the hustle mentality is always you hear that out there. I'm like, I'm just not willing to hustle for my family time. It's the most valuable thing for me.
Hustle stands for hustle and grind. They're just cool words to make you feel good about working way too much.
Yeah, to prove that it's the right thing to do.
If you're an entrepreneur and you can't get what you have to get done in 4 days a week, maybe you got to look at your business model or delegate something. Because like I instituted the 4-day work week 15 years ago, and when I was a consultant, like on the road, I worked 4 days a week. I always came home on Thursday nights, period. And now I do maybe 3.5 days a week. And it's not even, it's like 4 to 6 hour days, if that. And I take a nap during the day too. So, I mean, and I'm making more money than ever before. And it's because I prioritized the things that mean something to me. So when I work, I know why I'm doing it. And I know that I have, 4 hours until the kids come home, and I'm not going to be like, I'll do it later. No, I'm going to do it now. So when the kids come home, I'm with them.
Yeah, my day job a few years back, I was always at the 4 o'clock would come and it'd be like, oh man, I got to stay late. Got to get those emails out. And then eventually I realized these were all just BS excuses for things that I did for far too long during the day. There were opportunities that I just spent way too much time talking with someone, and my family was going to pay the price. And I'm like, why should they pay the price for my mistakes during the day? And I just said, okay, I'm done. And that tomorrow's a better day. And I'll just figure out a better way to manage my time.
I think, how do I say this? So I think men have how do I say this? There's a lot of men's and husbands and dads groups out there, right? And I see a lot of guys unhappy. I see a lot of guys
unfulfilled.
Yeah, but not how do I say it? Not the man of the house, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like they've resigned, sort of. And they're upset, and the wife isn't happy, and they continue to do their job because it's like their only way out there where they feel any kind of value and stuff. And for me, that means that for me as a guy, I see myself as a provider. I'm fortunate enough to live in a foreign country in Eastern Europe where women say, "You're the man. Don't ask me stupid questions. Just do man stuff."
Yeah.
So I provide, and that's what I need. And that doesn't mean I provide money. It means I provide sort of certainty and security for my family. I provide variety for my family. I make my children, my wife, people feel significant in their and in my life, right? I have the love and connection. I make sure that they grow with me, and that my children grow through education, through love, through whatever it is that we have. And of course, what we all do is I make sure as a provider, I make sure that we're contributing to society as a whole. And those 6 things that I just named, they're the 6 essential human needs. So that means every problem on earth can be solved by those 6 essential human needs. And that is real simple. It's certainty, which means, security, relationships, that kind of stuff. And then you have variety, which is obvious. You need variety. You're going to die. Significance. You need to feel significant. Love and connection, obviously. Growth. When we stop growing, we become bored. We become complacent. We start hating ourselves. And of course, contribution. We all know in the military what that means, right? And that significance comes into play too, especially when you're a military dad and you get out and you're at home and you're sort of like, you end up working at the bar like I did. Suddenly you take off that uniform that has your entire identification, your entire identity on your sleeve, so to say. Mm-hmm. And you take that off and you're at the bar and some 14-year-old kid says, "Get a loser, you get a real job," and that's a lot to deal with. So we go back to HIT. I'm responsible for myself. And I decide how I react to the outside world. No one else does. So if you come to me and you make me mad, then I show you that I make you mad, that just means I'm a slave to your word. And that for me, as a man, as a provider, as a father, that doesn't happen to me. So for fathers out there that are worried and, oh, my wife, and I don't know, you got to stand up, man. You got to stand up. You got to be a man. You can't be scared to be a man. And I know that means in America, oh, my God, now he's being sexist. Not at all. What I'm saying, as a man myself, I'm a provider. I ensure that I provide everything that I need from in my will and in my power that I can. If I hold back anything because I'm upset or, oh, she did this, I'm going to do that, then I'm failing not only myself, but my family. So I'm pretty adamant about that. I've never really talked about it, but I'm pretty sick of hearing, about how men are just being hated all the time. And you don't have to be man. Being a man doesn't mean being, it just means, standing up for who you are and what your values are. Man
usually means like bottle up your emotions, especially the military version of it. Man up, bottle it up. Don't talk about what you're really feeling about. Be someone else who people probably want you to be. Yep. In reality, is like as you always talked about, is just honestly being true to yourself. Yeah,
and it's funny because you see trends. That's why you see the identity politics also in the fatherhood coming through, in the manhood. You look at the trend, which is ending finally, and the trend was plaid shirts, beard, hard cut, hard part in the hair, the whole works. Like every man in the media was a guy with a beard, and now that's going away slowly. Who knows? It's always changing. Who knows what's going to be? And people who subscribe to that, it's great because they find an identity. They feel great about themselves, but still they're not true to themselves because that's not who they are. They're actually not authentic because they're actually following the trend. And that's always a discussion I have with people. They say, "What do you mean I'm authentic? Look at me. I'm like, you look like everybody else." Excuse me. There's nothing wrong with tattoos. Nothing wrong with a beard at all. Nothing. If that's what you do, that's what you do. It's your deal. Yet don't claim to be, trying to claim to be authentic. And for me, it's real simple. If I'm trying to be like someone that I see because I think it's cool, then I'm not being authentic. Simple as that. And that hurts my family. Period.
Yeah. Because then it makes you less of the person that your wife fell in love with.
Of course. And it's for who you fell in love with.
Yep.
You got to love yourself, man. No one can love you without you loving yourself. No one. And a lot of these guys I see, especially in these fathers groups, they don't love themselves. They're downtrodden, beat down, hate themselves, and they're in a marriage they don't want to be in. They cheat on their wife for 10 years, and she turns around and cheats on them, and they're crushed. It's like, what? It's just get out of your own head, man. Get out of your own head and just find who you are for real, your purpose, man. What's your purpose?
Yeah. When your kids are 30 at a bar talking about their dad, what do you want them to say?
I'll be sitting beside him. So I'll be 80, but I'll be 80 years old sitting beside him. I think they're going to say my dad was eclectic. He was a big guy who, had even a bigger heart and did way too much for way too many people, in their opinion. So, yeah, I think that's what they'll say. I know that what I've done so far in the world is more than most people have done in their life. But it was all in stride, and it was all due to the principles that I live by. And I also know that my real impact hasn't even come yet. So I'm standing on the threshold. Yeah.
I'm a big believer. I've just recently started framing things, but thinking of different parts of our life as just a season. So you did things at a different part of your life in a season, and now you're in a different season that requires different mindset, different approaches. And now you're really almost in the legacy season because your family is the legacy that you leave behind, and whatever impact you had in the world, your kids are the ones that are going to carry it on. And
well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. Is as part of what I do is I help people learn and think long term. We have a society of instant gratification, and even goal setting. Most people I know, they just want to pay the bills this month. And my goals are to establish I don't want to say dynasty, but like a secure world for my children, no matter what happens. And that's also in order for them to be able to have an education if I'm not here anymore, for them to have whatever it is that they need, not spoiled wise, but be able to support themselves if they have to, have a business that they can take over if they so choose and run it like, that's the kind of stuff that I think of right now. And most people don't think like that anymore. I mean, the rare exception is like royals and aristocrats, that's why their dynasties are so strong, because that's how they think. They think in generations, not in months. And so that's how I'm beginning to think, and that's how I'm planning, and that's why suddenly when I'm teaching a class now called The Last Goal Setting Course You'll Ever Need, and we teach about that. So we set goals for 30 years, and that's just blowing people's minds. But when you tell them that, but when you start setting goals for 30 years, you're going to have 3, 4, 1,000 goals in front of you. And people are like, how can you possibly, reach those goals? And that's not the point. Point is, when I open my horizon up like that, and I look at all the possibilities that I can do, because anything's possible, then suddenly I'm aware of more doors. I'm aware of more opportunities. I'm aware of people walking up to me that I wouldn't be aware of otherwise. And I teach this to my kids too. It's like, always look who and what is in front of you, to the right of you, and to the left of you, and always be nosy and be informative, and who are they, what do they do, and why are they there, and that kind of stuff. And that's going to propel you into a life of excitement and amazing opportunities. And as long as you're giving back, everyone deserves it. So why not grab it? Yeah.
It reminds me of the Jim Carrey story where he wrote himself $1 million check, and in 10 years he was going to cash it and kept it in his pocket. And
I got plenty of those stories. I got a bunch of those stories. The ones I didn't write were the ones where I lost that check. Actually got the check, and then I lost it again. I was like, okay, I never wrote that one.
That one never happened.
But I learned about it. Exactly, yeah. But I learned about that, and what that was is the same thing I was talking about. Is we set goals, right? And we reach them, then we don't have a goal anymore. And we think, okay, cool. And then your mindset changes. You make the $1 million. The next thing you know, all you want to do is hold on to that $1 million. So you're not in the abundance mindset anymore. You're in the scarcity mindset. And when you're in my scarcity mindset, everything disappears. And I did that twice, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. And now it's just, the goal setting part of it, the reaching goals for me, my children, whoever it is a part of our daily process. So it's nothing special. Like, we reach goals and we set goals, and we talk about and process them every single day. So it's like an ongoing process, because a lifestyle change. Like, if you want to lose weight, you lose weight. and then you gain it back again because you only set a goal of losing that weight and not changing your lifestyle forever. And that's sort of where I live, if you will, with my family. And that makes things much calmer because nothing happens right now. Nothing happens right now. And coming from the military, you know how hard that is, right? Mm. So this has really solidified us as a family where we say, okay, take the time to build whatever it is we have, whatever we want. If you want to do this, then we have to talk about it, move it this way. We have to talk about it, move it that way.
What was your scariest moment as a dad? And what did that teach you about towards your life and how you set it up now?
I think the scariest moment was when my son was born, the first child, where, this is weird. I didn't know what love was until I had a child. Like I thought I knew, I had no idea. And what's scary about being a dad is that you can't be there forever, right? Mm-hmm. Number one. And number two is it's not about you anymore. Zero, mm-hmm. And having that responsibility can be daunting. It can be massive pressure if you're a perfectionist, if you're, what do you call them? Seagull parents. If you're scared. Parents. Yeah, helicopter parents. If you're scared that you're going to get hurt, that kind of stuff, that's helicopter parents. It was hard for me to let go because I was like that, like a little bit, oh, what happened? My wife's like, chill. My wife's really strong that way. Like if he busts his head, he busts his head. That's what happens. And so for me, the scariest part was actually that realization that, man, literally, that's like they're being born. I'm thinking like I won't be here forever. I mean, what a weird thought to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you're older as a dad, so then you probably have just things like I'm going to be over 60 when these things happen, and will I be there?
I'm 51 now, and they're 3 and 4. So figure it out. I mean, it's not like you said, when I'm 30, I'll be 80. Or 79 anyway. And my dad's 76. So, and he looks like he's 50. So, hopefully the gene, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I think my grandfather died at 82. So something like that. I think the scariest part is knowing that, that I was going to be there. But that keeps me conscious of it. It really does. It really keeps me conscious of it. I think about it more than I should probably. But that keeps me on my toes to say, this is the moment right now. Like every time I leave, if I go somewhere, like tomorrow I'm driving to Vienna, I want to make sure that they know everything that I need to tell them. It doesn't matter what time it is, if it's in the morning, night, it doesn't matter if I'm leaving for long or short. I will leave the house with the 2 kids knowing everything that's in my heart, period. And I do that every day when I leave.
How did you deal with that when their kids were first born? Did you have trouble with burying yourself in work as like a way to avoid it?
Of course, I avoided the entire thing. That's why the 4 days a week were great for me because I could leave. My wife would call and show me pictures of them going to kindergarten and she's crying, like, bawling. And I'm like, hey, baby, it'll be all right. I gotta get back to work. Love you. Bye. I just didn't want to deal with it. And now it's like, how could I dare do that?
And even just the looking back and being honest with yourself, I can only imagine was a monumental shift.
Well, it was because I was a hitman, right? So I've always lived this way, and suddenly I wasn't because I was scared, and I was scared, and it was the most beautiful thing in the world that scared me, and the children, Yep. And then we had the second child. I was like, oh, good Lord, it's a daughter. Oh, good Lord, So, and it took some time. Still to this day, I look at them sometimes, and I can just break out in tears because I love them so much. It freaking hurts sometimes, It's how much I love them.
I remember I've heard it explained it's like having your heart beat outside your body and run around and be dangerous. Like at any moment, your heart could just break, and sometimes you have no control over it. And I struggle with that same thing as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Especially my son looks exactly like me. So, and like my father and like my grandfather, we all look exactly like when we were his age. I have a twin brother. We looked exactly like him. My father looked exactly like him at age, and my grandfather looked exactly like him at our age. So it's really weird. It's like the strongest gene ever.
I find the scariest part is with my daughter, that there was a book I read, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and it talks about how much of a role their father plays in their future choice of men and everything in life. Even just giving your daughter a hug every day reduces this age that they'll have sex by 60%, just because they get whatever they from you, they'll go and find it from, it's like just giving a hug. So like that affection with their father, if they don't get it from you, there's like a 60% chance less of having sex by the age of 12. Just from you giving her that physical touch, because then she won't go out and seek it on her own. Like that little something like made me realize that how I show up in her life, I'll either be the one providing it or she will find someone that
no. I'm all over her. Like, we hug as much as possible. Like I can't hug him enough. I don't spoil him that way. But at least I don't think I am. My wife says I do a little bit. My wife says I do a little bit. But I'm this. I mean, she's a stern one. Like, typically throughout the day. But when it gets hard on hard, I'm the tough one. I'm like, all right, enough, boom. But I don't. This is where the difference is I don't get mad because I know what I'm doing. Right? I'm not mad. I'm saying stop now. It's enough. So I don't get mad. So occasionally I'll get mad, but it's very rare. But I don't stay mad. Like it's 10 seconds and I'm okay.
Yeah, just like a kid, they could get mad, but 3 seconds later, giving you out,
exactly.
telling you, I love you.
But my wife's a little different in that case. She gets mad, she stays mad for a little bit, And I'm like, baby, why? What's the point? There's nothing. You're doing nothing for anybody except for you negatively. And so, So there's a book that Jocko Willink wrote called Warrior Kid. It's also how fathers deal with their sons. It's amazing. You read it to your son. My son's too young really to understand it yet, but amazing book. I was actually Tim Sales suggested that to me. A pretty cool book. It's about a kid, sort of not being accepted and how he dealt with it, that kind of stuff. So pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
What do you want your family's legacy to be?
My family's legacy, I want it to be whatever they want it to be. I just want to provide the launching pad for them. And that includes my wife, I see my wife having a second life, I see it, so, if I live to 80, she'll be 50, saying I'm 51 right now. I'm just starting out again, my third career, my third life, whatever. So I see that happening, that could totally happen. And I just want to make sure that everything is possible. We got our dream house here in Hungary, or here, her dream house, but it's our dream house. And that was a big deal for her. Like 98% of Hungarians own real estate. So you always own your house. You never rent. And only expats rent. That was me. And so that's a big thing for her that she can build from here. And we're in a village of 2,000 people. And I'm going to buy up a bunch of land in the neighborhood here. So they have that to either sell or, sort of rent or whatever they want to do. I'm going to try to buy some farmland too. I can't buy it because I'm a foreigner. It's in Hungary. You can only be Hungarian to buy land, so it'd be in her name anyway. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm doing. I don't need to make my son a football star or be a movie star or whatever. I just want to give them the platform so they can do whatever they want.
When you think of for your daughter is your oldest or your son is your oldest?
Son is my oldest. When
you think of the different, I always struggle in this, whether to do sports or ballet for my daughter. Yeah. How do you balance that versus like making them want to try new things, but at the same time making sure that it's something they want to do? And I've always struggled in that area of how to plan.
I'm not following the question. What's the actual question?
Like, how do you frame it in your head of making sure your son is exploring football, soccer, American football in this case? Probably not over there. That's a wrong example. But
I don't.
When you enroll when your kids get enrolled in different activities, how do you?
We talked to him about it. We look at it on TV. We watch a video or something, not TV, but video. Mm-hmm. Hey, what do you think of that? How's it work? And I show him a little moves or whatever. We just let him bounce it off. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. We never force him to do anything. We never force him to, dance in the school play and that kind of stuff. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. It's not a big deal. My daughter and my son are sort of shy until they get to know you, like probably most kids are. But then they don't shut up. So it's just constant, they sort of love that stuff. So I try not to mix into it. I try not to just make any decisions for them. Like I would never say no or yes, because I really want them to realize, like I said, they're being kids. My number one goal is to have them laugh every single day. And number two is to be a kid as long as possible. That's my two goals, because I know my childhood was taken away from me really early. And I just know, I hear of people who have like long childhoods and how much fun they had and stuff. So I just want my kids to develop themselves, man. I want to give them a platform and space to develop who they are.
Just explore their curiosity.
Yeah, man. Just do whatever you think is exciting for you. And then if you try, like my son tries all kinds of stuff. Doesn't like it. You know, I don't go out like if I want to go ice skating. Okay, we're going to buy a full ice skating. We don't do that. We rent the ice skates.
Yeah.
All right, give it a shot. No, you don't like it. Okay, good. Let's go.
My daughter loves ice skating. It's one of our favorite things. It's one of my time.
My son likes horseback riding. For instance. So yeah, and my daughter, you know, she hasn't gotten that far yet to really like anything.
Do you like horseback riding?
I did back in the day, but my spine is all messed up now. I can't do the jolting anymore. Yeah. So yeah, it's yeah, you know, it's funny because over here, you know, in their preschool, they had horse riding every Thursday. And then in winter, they had ice skating every Thursday. They have military day, they have Independence Day, and they dress up and they make little military hats like they did in the 1800s, and they wear these Hungarian stuff. I love it that they teach history here and national culture and things like that. I absolutely love it. And my son speaks Hungarian and English, and now that we moved to this village 4 months ago, the school's actually German, so they speak English, German, and Hungarian, and they're only 3 and 4 years old. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
When I've always liked the idea of, and I haven't been able to do it yet, but I know the benefit of traveling internationally, getting those different perspectives. Do you see that as something like you want to take your kids on more international trips with you as they get older?
Oh, we do. So yeah, my son is 4. He's been to America 9 times, been to Italy twice. They've both been to Spain. My daughter's been to America, I think 6 times. Been to the UK. Yeah, we take them everywhere. Take them everywhere, man. And it's funny because like we went to Italy and my son's like, pizza, you know, and he's like, just grab this big ass pizza. I was like, how do you know? Because we don't eat pizza. Like, you know, how did you even know? I mean, it's crazy. We don't watch TV either, except for certain programs. So we don't do mindless zipping, zapping. We don't zap at all. 0. So it's funny how sometimes they just adapt immediately. Like you're in the same, like you're down the street, you know, You don't even notice. It's funny how, you know, they remember like from their young childhood still today, things will pop out like, hey daddy, where's the pizza that we had yesterday? And you're like, yesterday? Like when? Yeah, we were in this place. And like, that was 4 years ago.
Yesterday is 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and, yeah. And it's like, and do you remember that? It's like, yeah, there's a big ball of cheese. I'm like, yeah.
Always amazed at what they can remember.
I know. It's like, that was buffalo mozzarella. He's like, yeah, buffalo. Like, whoa. Yeah.
It is nice when they figure out that the word yesterday is yesterday and not 2 years in the past. Then it makes it so much easier to figure stuff out. I remember I traveled to Prague for work, and one of the very first lessons they taught me is that they spend almost all of their 20s just traveling the world, finding the person that they love, and just enjoying life.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that Americans don't really do well at all, in that we just get sucked into our own little country. Most people never leave their state even, let alone the country, get a passport and explore something. But that true, just seeing the world through a different set of eyes adds so much unmeasurable, intangible benefit to just choosing what you want to do with your life, knowing who you are, getting in touch with who you are. It's something that I definitely want to make sure that I figure out how to incorporate in my life.
And depth, man. Depth.
Depth, yes.
And what would drive me nuts when I worked in Berlin and the bar scene, right? So I had my own bars and stuff in Berlin. And I worked at the Hard Rock Cafe too before that. You'd see the Americans come there and they would go to the Hard Rock Cafe. I'd be like, what the hell are you doing in the Hard Rock Cafe? You're in Germany, man. Go eat some sausage and, you know, Haxa, they call it, you know, and it was funny how they travel and they still do the American things, you know, like I go to the Marriott here in Budapest on Sundays and they have the Viking cruise, you know, it's like a river cruise for older people. And it's all Americans. They're all eating at the Marriott, eating American breakfast. Like,
my coworkers would always go to the TGI Fridays in Prague. Yeah. We're in Prague. Why would you go to TGI Fridays? I
know. Crazy. That's because they know. Everyone has their choice. Everybody's familiarity. There's only, 19% of Americans even have passports or something like that. So I can't even, like, I've had my passport stocked up twice because I have so many stamps in there. I mean, this year alone, Egypt, Morocco, every European country, basically England, Spain. I mean, I don't even know. I went to so many places. I went America 4 times in the last 5 months. So yeah, it's just, you know, traveling around like crazy. But I haven't started bringing them on speaking gigs yet or on business gigs yet because I can never tell what's going to happen. You know, I don't know how long I'm going to be out, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I will start doing that once I get to a certain point that I'm going to start having a tutor and we're going to travel together. So if I speak in Australia, I'll make it, and I speak twice. I'll make it 2 weeks, and we'll stay there for 2 weeks. Speak for 2 days and then have the rest 2 weeks to travel and have a tutor there to teach kids. And then if I don't know, go to China, then we'll do the same thing there. So that's sort of how I envision it happening once I get to that point. If that's the route I still want to go by then, who knows? Because I feel like it's changing. Because my online presence and my online businesses are going so well that I may not even want to travel.
Yeah, you may find that you can just be dad and still be exactly, and a different season of life, maybe when they're in their teenage years, when they would also like exponentially have fun just being teenagers in foreign countries.
Yeah, and it's funny. I like that. Yeah, exactly. I like the different seasons, but some people might not realize that I changed my life completely, like 3 times, like completely. Languages, countries, people, relationships. Completely changed, like jumped from military to a civilian in Germany, didn't speak the language, right? And just had no clue what the hell I was doing. And I did it. I came out on top, wrote a bestseller, and did TV, all kinds of stuff, and news anchor, did MTV, all kinds of stuff. And then I did it again in Hungary. I just left Germany and came to Hungary, didn't speak the language, still don't speak it as great as I speak German. And my life in Germany was hanging out with the royals, working with politicians, European parliament members, German parliament members, other world leaders, Mick Jagger, Andrea Bocelli, Olivia Newton-John, working with all these people. And here I'm just an online dude living in the village. And it's like completely different life. Not even, like my wife can't even imagine that I did those things that I did. Hanging out with Bill Clinton and Kofi Annan at the UNESCO ball in Geneva. Mm-hmm. That was my old life. And people are like, how could you leave that? I'm like, because it was all fake. Meant nothing. When I had kids, everything else fell away. Like when I had kids, it doesn't matter at all.
I've heard it said that Billy Graham, when he said that he's talked to stadiums of 60,000 people, and he would have had a bigger impact on the world if he spent that time with his kids.
Amen.
We can get caught up in the Hollywood that you need to be associated, or you need to even just be associated at all, or people need to know you in order for you to have value. That's where you go back to that you're essentially living someone else's life. Exactly. And eventually as happy as people are in Hollywood, even Robin Williams, everybody thought he was the happiest guy in the world.
He was a comedian for
exactly. He made people laugh.
Yeah. Well, and again, once again, we get back to that hit, we get back to, you have to love yourself, and you are responsible for your happiness. Nobody else can be responsible for your happiness. If they are, that's not a healthy relationship. The basis of every healthy relationship on this planet, in this universe, be it public, private, professional, whatever it is integrity. That's it. That's the basis. If you don't have integrity in your relationship, and that means you doing what you do because you want to do it and because you want to be there, not because you expect something, because you have, you want something. And that can only be if you're happy with yourself and you realize that you're the one who dictates your own reality. It's the way it is. And when you do that, I can't even tell you what freedom is like. When you realize that whatever I do it because I want to do it. You know how it is. When I was working and I had a boss, which was like maybe 2 years of my life, I remember this, like, oh, Steven, a boss wants to see you. I'm like, oh shit, what does he want? You walk in there, you're nervous, you don't know what to say. I don't need that. I don't need to do that. If I come from a place of honesty, integrity, transparency, it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he expects from me, because where I'm coming from is hit, period. And that, no matter what he says or she says or how they say it or what they think or how they feel or their mood, has nothing to do with who I am. When you realize that, my friend, that is incredible freedom. And suddenly you're the most authentic person that anyone's ever met, because you're you and you're living it fully. Mm-hmm.
And you show up and you're almost like that people don't really know how to handle it. Most, especially in America, because very, very little, even just random conversations at the grocery store, you can just have people like, no one talks to me at the grocery store.
Yeah. I talk to everybody everywhere. Like, I literally, like, I'm always talking to people. Like, I can't stand anyone without talking to people. I love people. I love meeting people and talking to them everywhere you go. I'm the guy in the elevator who talks to everybody.
2 years ago, I had a mindset shift that if I wanted a result I've never had in my life, which was friends, I needed to do something I never did, and it was just talking. And so I've got a mindset that I'm always one conversation away from something amazing coming into my life, and I'm going to miss those shots if I don't take them. And so I always just start
Perfect example. And I'm going to tell you this. People ask me, how do you get such good guests on your podcast? Like I had, I don't know, some people you might not even know, but I have some pretty high caliber people on there, and like world known people. And someone asked me how you do it. I said, I ask. I talked to them like I'm talking to you right now. So an example was yesterday. I wrote a guy that I've heard of for the last 15, 20 years. 30 years, actually. And his name is Tim Sales. And Tim Sales is someone that hardly anyone knows unless you're in the network marketing company business. He was a trainer for so many years. And he made, he was back in the 90s after he was a Navy diver. He got out, and within 5 years, he was making $150K a month. And, he ended up making a training company on how to work network marketing. And his book last year was downloaded 44 million times. No one even knows who he is. And perfect example. I called him up, or I wrote him a mail and said, I want to have him on podcast, And yesterday we had a preliminary talk, a pre-talk for the podcast. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. It was 3 hours. And he said, Steven, I feel like I have a friend. And you're exactly right. You're one question away from having someone who you've known and who is influential and has answers and things like that, not only of realizing they're just like you and only human, but you can be a friend. They put their pants on
the same way.
Yeah, and you can be a friend with them just like that. It's exactly the same way that I met Andrea Bocelli, Mick Jagger, all those people. Same exact way. Just did it like that.
And if you do get that no, that's most likely that they're not really being honest with themselves, and they're most
exactly.
likely
well, that's
pretending to ignore you because that's what they were told they need to do.
Or you're not hit.
Correct.
You're not coming from a place of hit. You're trying. You're asking for. You want something. You're up. Your expectations are there. You have expectations. Literally, look. The essence of hit is this: showing up fully and wholly for the person in front of you without an expectation, even if you don't have the answers. And the reason for that is when you show up with somebody and you don't have the answers, they're at ease because you're there for them no matter what. If they need just your support or they need your answers, you're there in the same way, and that empowers them automatically. That they open up their horizon. They can often solve the solution, come to the solution on their own.
Makes them feel safe.
As well, yeah, exactly.
What's a book that you would recommend for military veteran dads? You talk about the Warrior Kid.
Warrior Kid. I like the Warrior Kid. I don't know. It depends where you are in your career. I mean, and your life. I mean, there's self-development is number one. As a dad, if you're not secure in who you are, and you're not secure in what you can teach, and you're not secure in your own values, then that's what comes first. I would suggest anyone out there who isn't hit, who isn't in their core, of who they are, read The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. Actually, don't read it, listen to it. Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. It's like a 2-hour book, 1 hour and 80 minute, or 1 hour and 50-minute book or something like that. And what it does is it deprograms you from external influence, I guess you could say, and you end up learning what I was talking about, how you're basically you're in control 100% of the time, and no one can make you do anything unless you let them, unless you want to do it for them because you feel like they expect it from you, like your wife or your son even, or your daughter or your mom or your boss, the police officer that stops you on the street. These are all people that if you're not hit, you're going to dance to their music.
Mm-hmm. I found a similar mindset going to the gym. I've been going to the gym for the last almost 12 months now. I mean, not 10 months. And I find a lot of it is more just it's about the inner work through pushing through, even just pushing a barbell. Like that pushes through more nonsense self-talk in my head. And more, to me, going to the gym is more about the inner work than looking good on the outside. And I think everybody gets lost on the outside, which is why they quit the gym routines. But I find so many just garbage pushed out of my head by pushing through lifting weights.
The gym is where I get my inspiration. That's where I get my inspiration every day. I mean, I literally sing out loud in the gym. It gets somebody's nerves. But I'm literally the guy that's just bouncing around, shaking everybody's hand, giving them high fives. And I'm in such an amazing mood every morning because I get up, I do my magic morning routine. I meet my kids and my wife. We kiss and whatever we do, and then I take off to the gym. They go to school. I go to the gym with my wife typically. I'm just on fire in the gym because that's where the creativity. I usually listen to audiobooks while I'm in there. So I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, and I'm pumping. I'm like, yeah, and I'm just letting it out, and I'm always giving advice and helping people out and that kind of stuff. And I think that I've been training since I was 13, so almost 14, and So it's not even a habit. It's like eating. It's like drinking water for me, going to the gym. And that's why, because it's the hormone release. It's the endorphins, it's that what you said, breaking through. If you're in a bad mood, go to the gym.
Yeah, it'll push you through, and I've done that many times.
If you're depressed, go to the gym. If you're tired, go to the gym. It's just or whatever fitness you desire. But yeah, the gym is huge for me. Huge. I mean, that's where I got the idea for the last goal setting course you'll ever need. I was there. I was like, well, I have a partner who's a Green Beret veteran, Lane Malone. And I called him like, dude, we gotta do this. Oh my God, it's perfect. He's like, oh yeah, we're on it. Boom. And we started. 4 weeks later, the course started. We had 50 people who joined. And we started. It's first class, changed lives already. So I can't wait for the next 7 classes.
I have a similar where the best Facebook posts that I come up with are at the gym. And one of them was just the rowing machine. I did one yesterday with the rowing machine. I was like, I just learned 2 life goals and proved it with the rowing machine. You set a target, you hit it. With consistent action and daily investment, you're going to get there.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's what Tim Sales said yesterday. He said, look, he said, look, I'm almost scared to go on your podcast because I think so simply. I said, no, that's your strength. You sold 44 million books. Are you kidding me? And he said, look, I can make anybody a millionaire if they just train and actually do the work. He said he made like 56 millionaires last year. He said, just train and do the work. That's all you need. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just train it until you can't do it wrong.
Mm-hmm. That is just a natural habit.
You can't do it wrong. I like that when it's consciously stated, you can't do it wrong. When you say it becomes, it's natural. That's different than saying you can't do it wrong. It's the same thing as I say, I dictate my own reality. Or if I say the universe can never say no, because it can't. 2 different sayings means the same thing, but one's more powerful than the other one. I always like to choose the powerful words for myself because I remember real simple things like that for myself.
Yeah. This interview has just been incredible, Steve. What's a parting piece of advice that you'd like to give for military veteran dads?
Don't be hard. Don't be too hard on yourself. When you're home, give fully and totally to your children, to your family. When we don't be distracted, don't say you need time for yourself. Even if you do need time for yourself, you're going to find that the most soothing thing that you can do is be with your family. If you let it go, if you let it happen, you have to let it happen. No expectations, guys. You're the provider. You're the warrior. You come home, whatever they do, they do. You can't control them. You can't force them. You can't make them do anything, right? So let it go and be who you are and be happy with you. And believe me, it's like a magnet. They come to you. As soon as you're happy with who you are, it's like a magnet. Boom, they all come to you.
Way to end the show with a bang.
Bang.
Well, Steve, thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a real pleasure.
It was my pleasure indeed. Thanks for the talk. It was quite an interesting talk. I've never had an interview like that before, so thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a wrap, and thank you for listening to today's show, and I really hope you enjoyed it. The lifeblood of any new podcast are the reviews. If you haven't reviewed the podcast yet on iTunes, I would really appreciate it, and you will help us get the message out to even more military veteran dads. As John Maxwell says, if there is hope in the future, there is power in the present. Dads, it's time to come home.